grab me a beer and grab him a coke. We about to sit for an hour, bullshit and tell jokes. And please don't mix it up, cause he done sobered up. Brandon T Comedy on your social media feeds. And Brandon Taz if it's your ex drinking buddy. Brandon Taz if it's your ex drinking buddy. Brandon Taz if it's your ex drinking buddy. Brandon Taz if it's your ex drinking buddy.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. I'm your host, Brennan Tassif. If you're new to the show, quick rundown of the show. I used to be everyone's favorite drinking buddy. It was my favorite thing to do, hang out with friends, talk shit, talk shop, get drunk, do drugs, get in all sorts of trouble, and reminisce about old stories. That is still one of my favorite things to do today, even though I am sober now. So it's more talking shit and reminiscing versus drugs and booze. Most weeks I will be joined by a guest. This week is no exception. All the way from New York City, the fourth and final producer of the Hell Yeah Comedy Boys, Jimmy Ong.
Hello, yeah. Ooh, yeah.
What's up, Jimmy?
Oh, not much, man. How you doing? Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
I'm doing great. Wanted to get you on because you are the final piece in the Hell Yeah puzzle.
Yeah. The Ringo, maybe.
Ringo to there.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I like George more.
Yeah, you're totally George.
Yeah.
I see it. You're the older one, the artist.
Yeah.
I totally get it.
Cool, yeah.
Up front, I do this with every guest. Plug everything up front. The Instagram, the Hell Yeah shows. This will come out next Friday, so plug all of it.
Oh, yeah. We have a show. They're the 25th of March. Lineup hasn't been posted yet, but you should come out. It's going to be at Citizens of Soho.
Citizens of Soho, not Citizens of Chelsea or Citizens of Gramercy. Citizens of Soho. It's a mistake I've made far too many times.
Oh, yeah. We talked about it last time. I went to the Citizens in Greenwich, or is that even? I was like, oh, yeah, that's Soho. No, it's not. I also have you can catch me on Instagram at Pizza Jim. I bake stuff and I make pizzas. I'm a hobbyist. So yeah. And
you also do comedy.
And I forgot. Yeah. Most importantly, I do comedy. Yeah.
No, everyone's always like, you only have comedians on. So we're gonna file this one under baker.
Yeah.
I'm having a baker on.
Multi-hyphenate.
There you go. That sounds oddly racist. So I have a couple things. Whenever I have a new guest on, I always like to kind of get to know that guest. So like you said, you do the baking. You also do comedy. You're in with the Hell Yeah guys. Now, I'm not trying to throw any shade at anybody, but you are a little bit older than those guys because they are babies. Yeah. Well, because I talked about it with Billy. Billy's like 20. And I was like, he's like 23, but I was like, what? And then Cody's obviously a little bird bones Cody. He's a baby too.
Yeah.
We love Cody Lewis here on the show. But how did you get involved with those guys?
Yeah. So during quarantine,
that's how every show
COVID,
starts.
Yeah. Well, there was only one place that would have open mics.
Joey Betts.
No, actually, the Eastville Comedy Club. I don't know if this is legal to say, but they ran as a restaurant, quote unquote, by serving popcorn. They got through the loophole, and they would have mics there. And yeah, I would see Billy and Cody a lot there, and Cody would just.
I don't want to leave Julian out.
Julian, yeah, but that's the thing. He would be in the audience. He started out. He was like the only. Him and his girlfriend Robin, like they would just be the only audience members. I remember seeing them a couple of times, and I had no idea he wanted to do comedy. And afterward, because I was like complimenting, like, "Oh, what you guys are good looking couple, blah blah." And then after I found out he's a comedy, I'm like, "Oh, fuck this guy,
go fuck yourself."
Yeah, and then he's just observing, and then he started doing comedy, and then we all came together like some.
So just through the quarantine, you guys were all hanging out, and you thought, well, we can produce shows. We can do this.
Well, I think Billy and Cody were on something, and then I just texted Cody like, hey, would you like to do a show? And then he's like, oh, I'm doing it with Billy, but let me get back to you. And then they included me.
Oh, okay. It's because it's a sweet little family you guys got going on.
Yeah, no, it works. It really does. It's like I am the oldest. It is funny though, just seeing the younger versions of the stages, I'm like, oh, I was.
It's also I find it hilarious because I try to support as much as I can. If I'm off or if, I go to the Hell Yeah shows, I try to hit the Hell Yeah mics because I love you guys. And so it's one of those fun things to go and hang out with friends.
Yeah.
It's very reminiscent of the smaller scene I came from where it's like, oh, I've got my buddies and then we're going to do comedy.
Yeah.
But the thing I love is the fact that I'll go to the show and like Cody will go up and everyone's hilarious. But the references are so different. Like when you go up and you start referencing things that I get, I'm like, fuck yeah, like let's do it. And then they'll reference things that I understand because it's in pop culture and it's like in the zeitgeist, but it's like, that's not for me. And then you'll go up and reference things and I'm like, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, dude. Oh man, I think I've referenced The Nanny once.
Yeah.
And fucking King of Queens.
Yeah,
like,
you did a whole bit about King of Queens.
Yes.
And I was like, I totally get that. Like they're talking about Megan Thee Stallion and I'm like, well, I've heard of her.
Oh man!
And then you go up there and talk about King of Queens. I'm like, this is my guy right here.
I don't want to date myself by saying what's the new stuff.
Yeah,
people are listening. I'm like, I just keep my mouth quiet.
I know I've talked about it before. I have this whole bit I know it will work about Independence Day, the movie.
Yeah,
how everyone thinks like it's a whole thing. And I was like, it's quick. It's super. I think it's super funny.
Yeah,
I've done it in shows with actual like audience members where they're a little older and they think it's funny because they've all seen the movie.
Yeah,
but I'll do it at Mike's and it's crickets because everyone's 22 and no one has seen Independence Day. And I'm like,
you gotta.
I'm like, come on, guys.
You gotta stick with the bit. You gotta do it
because I know there's something there, but it's like the King of Queens thing. It's like, you gotta pick which rooms to do that.
Yeah,
in, because if it's all like some of those Hell Yeah shows, it's all like young women in like their early 20s, and it's like, they're not gonna get this at all.
I tried doing a bit about like dried fruit because I'm older and I like it, and it was like I like it now. And I looked it was getting crickets, and I looked and it was like all such baby face. I'm like, you'll get it one day. You're gonna thank me for this. I'm giving you a heads up. And I felt like one of those shaking the finger.
Yeah,
it's like, I gotta say.
I have so many of those old man moments.
Yeah,
now.
But you just gotta keep doing it.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it's like I quote it all the time, but it's like Kyle Kinane says, I don't need everybody. I just need enough to fill a room.
Yeah.
Let's get into you. So are you from New York City?
No, I'm from Chicago originally.
Okay. We have a couple stories from Chicago we're going to get into.
Oh, yeah.
But what, so you were raised in Chicago, the city or a suburb or?
So yeah, the city proper, because there's always people that say they're from Chicago and then they say they're from the burbs, which it doesn't matter. Who cares? Just say where you're from, And
I have that on a much smaller scale. I always say I'm from Daytona Beach, Florida, because no one knows what Ormond Beach, Florida is.
You just say Ormond, and then it's like, it's near, and then they're like, But I was born in Chicago, the city, and then I moved out to the suburbs, and then I lived in Northwest Indiana for like a couple years, and then I moved back, but to the suburbs of Chicago.
Okay, so grew up in city proper, then suburbs, then Indiana, then back to suburbs?
Yes.
Okay. Now, are your parents originally from Chicago?
No, they're from Korea. They came in the 70s, I want to say. I have no, like, honestly.
North or south?
North. Oh, that was like a 80s.
Yeah.
Like back in when I was a kid, people would fucking ask me that. I'm like,
really?
What is this? What is this?
You don't get out of the North.
Yeah, you never get out, dude.
No.
Unless
my grandfather made sure that, no, I'm just
you just climb out. But yeah, so they I don't know exactly when they came. I should talk to my parents more. I got all these questions.
So did they go straight into Chicago?
Yeah.
God, that's a culture shock and a half.
Oh my God. My aunt already lived out in Chicago, so she kind of just came and brought the rest of the family.
Okay.
So I think. This is like, I bet my family's listening like, well, you got all these things wrong. Like, what is
We originally lived in South Carolina. What are you talking about? No. So what brought you, did you get involved in comedy in Chicago? Or is that something you didn't do until you moved to New York?
Oh, well, the closest thing I came to comedy in Chicago is when I briefly was a cocktail server at what is that? The Second City.
Oh, okay.
They opened up this restaurant place and they hired, and I was like, I'll work there. But that was the closest. That was the closest. I
watching comedy on a nightly basis was like the closest improv. You came to doing. Yeah. It's not even stand up. It's improv.
I will say though, the actors were so nice, but the coworkers were so mean. It was it was terrifying. But
normally it's the opposite. Normally it's your coworkers that are cool, and then the talent is kind of a dick.
Oh, it was surprisingly the opposite. But I didn't have any want to do comedy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is an interesting thing. It's almost a motif throughout the show because everyone I talk to, it's a little bit different. Like there's some people like me, and I'm super pretentious, and comedy is my life, and I've been wanting to do comedy since I was 12, and I'm the fucking worst when it comes to that sort of thing. And then I've met people who are like, well, I just like everyone paying attention to me, and comedy was one of the ways I could do that. And then I've talked to people who just loved not stand-up, but the genre of comedy, like comedic movies and stuff, and then they tried to get into writing and then eventually found their way to stand-up, or through improv they found their way to stand-up. So you, at a young age, you had no idea, want, inkling, nothing when it came to stand-up.
Well, I mean, I did theater in high school, like my senior year, but I didn't know that was like something you could do.
Yeah.
And plus, there's no Asians in media, so I was like, in high school, like, nah. I remember specifically in like one of my students, his parents saw me in a play and are like, "Oh, are you gonna pursue in acting in college?" I'm like, "What are you talking about? Like, get out of here! Like, we're not in the movies. What are you talking about? We're never gonna be in the movies. I better just, But that's kind of. I just didn't know that was possible, and then like I tried to do screenplays, which was
I love how you put that in air quotes.
It's just tried. Like everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, I'm gonna write this screen." It's like, no, it's fucking hard.
So, what did you want to do after high school? Because you went to college, correct?
Yes, I did. I went to college.
So, what did you want to like when you got out of high school and you're going into college? What were you thinking about doing?
Oh, an English teacher.
Okay,
that's because everyone told me I should do that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Now, everyone, you mean like your family or your friends?
Family, friends, and like I didn't. Okay, I didn't like to read. I didn't like to write. I hate writing papers, so it's just like, why am I doing this? And I don't know. I was aimless. I didn't know what the hell to do. I wanted to be a baseball player like all the kids did, but that was like...
I'm from the South, so we played football.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the baseball, that was a thing. But
especially in the Midwest. That's a huge thing in Chicago.
When you're not good at it, you're like in denial.
Trust me, my denial took me all the way to 8 concussions in college football.
I could still make it.
Yeah, I was like scout team All-American, baby. Practice squad, yeah.
Long snapper is the easiest way, or... being a kicker is really hard, I think.
Yeah, it's a lot harder than people give.
Yeah, so long snapper. I was thinking like that's the easiest way to slide onto a team.
Shout out Morgan Bennett. He was our long snapper in college.
Dude,
So when did you decide to get into comedy? How did that even happen?
Oh shit! Yeah, Can you swear on this?
Yeah, you could fucking say whatever the fuck you want.
I don't really swear normally, but it was just coming out. The coffee.
Yeah.
So I moved to New York in 2012, and we packed all my things.
Just cause?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I visited, and I was blown away by New York. I was just like, oh, the energy is crazy here.
That was the same thing. I obviously it was stand-up was in mind. But I was like, it's New York or LA. And I went to LA with my dad and my sister, my twin sister, as like an 18-year-old. And I was like, oh, LA is cool. And then I had a lot of friends that went to LA. And I was like, oh, it's almost the same kind of weather as Florida. Like, I think LA. And I had this delusion that I was going to act. I was like, all the old ladies at work call me handsome. Maybe I could go out and act.
Still can.
Yeah. But then I had never been to New York as an adult. I came when I was like a young teenager, but never as an adult. And then Savannah, a friend of the show, my girlfriend and I came here. And as soon as I got off the subway, the E train from JFK, I was like, oh no, it's New York. Like I hadn't even spent real time here. But as soon as I walked up, same thing you're talking about, I was like, oh, New York's the place.
Yeah.
And then the rest was history. So for you, it was the same thing. You got here on a trip and you were like, oh, I love the city.
Yeah. Well, I kind of, I don't know, sometimes I can be a contrarian. So I always, growing up in Chicago, especially when the Bulls beat the shit out of the Knicks during the 90s,
Bulls still beat the shit out of the Knicks.
Yeah. So, no, like, growing up with that, like, I had this animosity toward New York and be like, oh, they think they're number.
So you're a big enough sports fan to where that you were like, fuck New York.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
I never been to New York, but I always like hated it. It's like, why do they think they're the shit?
Yeah.
Whatever, blah blah. And then the Chicago's nickname is the second city, so I was like always having a chip on your shoulder from that.
Do you know where that comes from?
I do not.
It's not called the second city because it's the second small. It's smaller than New York. It's called the second city because in the fires of the 30s, everything burned down and they had to rebuild it. So they called it the second city.
Stupid cow had to ruin.
I learned that from Vince Vaughn in that movie, The Breakup.
Oh,
so.
I saw that movie.
Yeah.
I totally wow.
And he's like, I'm the talent. Anyway,
yeah.
Back to so you always had a chip on your shoulder.
So. And then that was another thing where I was skeptical because that was another thing people told me. It's like, oh, you should move to New York. You should move to New York. You totally, belong there. You fit in there. Blah blah. I'm like,
But why?
Shut up.
That's what's crazy to me is why are people saying this? Like,
Yeah, I don't
You're
know.
not doing anything that would.
It's just-
But you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you're not.
I'm just breathing.
Yeah,
Just
you're not
living.
doing improv. You're not doing stand up.
yeah.
You're not. You're not in entertainment. But people are
Yeah.
just like, you are enough of a hipster, Jimmy. You would fit right in.
That's where I kind of got insulted. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, what? You think because I'm a nobody doing nothing, I belong there? Fuck you, dude.
New York's full of those people.
Yeah, that's why they're like, oh, you would fit right in, go in there. So, yeah. So I guess my best friend, he's just like, you should just go at least once. And he wasn't like twisting my arm. He's like, you should just go check it out. And then we went, and then I was just like, wow.
People were right. I do fit right in.
Yeah, I'm like, I hated to admit it, but I'm like, oh my God, I need to move here. So it was like back before 2012, before I moved here. So I had that seed planted, like one day I'll move here.
Yeah.
And then like a couple of years later, I get a text from a friend of mine that was living here that lives here. He's like, oh, there's a room opening up. Do you want to, I heard you were thinking of moving.
And this is years later.
Yeah, this is a couple of years later. And I blindly was just like, yes, give me that room. I've never seen this apartment. I just like blindly, and then I had to wire money, and it was like all this fiasco.
So did you have like money? Because I have a lot of artists on, so naturally most of us are all broke. So did you have like I had to save up for a year before we could move, and I only had like $4,000 saved after a fucking year of working 2 jobs because I'm so bad with money.
Yeah.
Did you like always have like a little something set aside, or did you have to ask for help? Or
oh my God. So I mean, dude,
I don't mean to get too personal, but these
I-
kind of things always interest me. People are always talking about like the main root of the story, but I'm always like, well, what happened before and after? Like, that's what gets me.
Oh, dude. I did set like about $5,000, I think.
Okay.
But it's terrifying to look back and think about how much money you could have had if you didn't drink.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
Whoa, I could have bought a house,
Yeah.
or like it's a good fucking down payment on the house. So I had enough money where I was just like, all right, I'm fucking gonna do this. I'm gonna move.
Okay.
And so I had a cushion, but then you gotta stop some certain habits. Like it's just
For sure.
But yeah, I just blindly moved in with these 2 strangers. And
Are those the guys you still live with today?
No. The friend's friend, we like that was the connection, and then I don't live with them.
But did it work out? Or like when you got here?
Yeah, for a few years.
I was going to say, because to move sight unseen, I've heard horror stories, and I've talked about it before, so I won't get into it, but we've had comics from Florida like just move blindly, like sight unseen, like they found a place on Craigslist and it was within their budget, and then they got here and they're like, oh, fuck. So they had to come back. So for you, it worked out. Like you didn't have, like you didn't get there and you're like, oh, shit.
I was lucky though, because through my friend, he vouched for the place, so I had no sketchy shadiness going on.
Where was it, the first place?
It was in Williamsburg, right off the Bedford stop. So it's like right in like crazy foot traffic.
Okay.
It was right next door to this bar, the Charleston. And
shouts out to Charleston.
Yeah, you get a free pizza for every drink, I think. Still open.
That's a crazy deal.
Charleston sponsor drinking buddy.
Well, that's Matt Fulcheron, my good buddy who's been on the show a bunch. He talks about when he moved to New York, it's so hard not to drink because all the bars have crazy deals.
Yeah.
It's like...
Well, if you think that, you should move to Chicago because, oh, man, you get lit for $20.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Let's okay.
Not with inflation now, but back in the 2000. Oh yeah,
you just get fucked up.
You get lit
that's weird
really
to me because that's the other thing. Everyone's like, "Oh, New York is so expensive," and it is. It is. Yeah. But if you know where to go, it's not that. Like I have 3 diners all within walking distance. Only one of them is open like 24/7. The others close at a reasonable time. But the other 2 are okay. Like they're nicer.
Yeah.
But it's like for the same meal, like one's like 27, one's 22, and then the other's like 14.
Yeah.
It's like, so you just have to figure out where to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the same thing with bars. It's the same thing with everything. Mm-hmm. It's like you can find like really good food for pretty cheap if you know where to look.
Yeah. It's like avocados. If you buy avocados in Manhattan, they're like $3. But if you go to Bushwick, they're like $1.50.
Yeah,
it's
you
like
just gotta
gas
know where
prices.
to go. Yeah,
it's gas prices.
So you get here, and then when did you start doing stand up?
Oh man, I didn't. So yeah, I moved here, and I didn't know what I was gonna do. I was just like, I just want to be here, so I did that.
Where were you working at the time? Did you move with a job, or did you like?
Kind of, yeah. So I'm actually still there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I work at this pizza place in the Nolita. It's called Ruby Rosa. It's a great pizza place.
Shout out.
Like my friend who was the bar manager there, he's like, oh, you want a job? I'll hook you up.
So you had a job coming.
Yeah, so I had things lined up. Okay. So I was like, it was a very well coordinated move. Yeah, surprisingly.
That's the way you got to do it.
Yeah.
Because how many people have we talked to where they come out here, they have money saved, that only lasts a month or 2. They can never find a job to cover rent and do what they came out here for, so they end up having to move back to wherever they're from. I mean, I've seen it a ton.
Yeah, you got to know what you're doing, man.
Yeah, well, and you also have to get a little lucky.
Yeah, that too.
I talked about it last week with Nathan. It's one of those things where, like, I got out here and I had a great job lined up, but then when I started working there, it was really slow, and I was like, I'm going to have to work 6 days to make rent, but I didn't move to New York to work behind a bar 6 days a week. Yeah. Like I moved for comedy. So you have to get a little lucky in the sense that. So you had the pizza place.
Yeah, I was lucky because it's still popping. It's still busy. But like I left a few years later. It was like going to other places. It was a seasonal gig at the time. Yeah. So then I had to like navigate what the hell I was gonna do. And at this coffee shop, I would just like try and write the screenplay. I bought all those books. Save the Cat. You know, everyone knows out there listening. You know the Save the Cat, right? It's one of those books everyone has. I need to burn that book, by the way, because it hasn't helped at all.
That's when people are like, "Yeah, I read a book about stand up." I'm all for it, but at the same time, I'm like, it's really a learn by doing sort of thing.
Like anything, I think.
But I'm a tactile learner. Like I learn by feel and touch and doing. Yeah. Like I'm not very good. Like if someone sits me down and tells me how to do something, I'm always like, just let me see it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like my brother used to always say, if you need directions putting something together, you shouldn't be putting it together. Yeah. Just look at it and figure it out.
Oh man, IKEA.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, you should be the new CEO and be like, no more instructions.
No more instructions.
You got to figure this out.
If you don't have a,
if you don't have your brain.
Yeah. If you don't have a mind for engineering, then you shouldn't be building it at all. God.
Kia stock goes plummeting down.
I short sold it. That was my plan the whole time. So you're bouncing around at the time with different jobs and stuff. And then what brought you to comedy?
So, okay. Fast forward. So my best friend comes and visits me, and he comes with his girlfriend. He's like, "Oh, you should go see comedy. Like, there's this thing called the Comedy Cellar." I'm like, "Oh, what's that?"
This thing?
Yeah,
greatest comedy club ever.
Yeah. Well, I'm an idiot, so hey. And he takes me to the
I almost cried the first time I came up here with Savannah and we just walked by the Comedy Cellar.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
I looked at it and I was like, this is it. This is the place.
Oh, man. We're two opposites.
Yeah, I know. Like, I mean, it's stupid because it's like you said, it is just a comedy club. But at the same time, in my head, I was like, this is the place.
It is great. Like, no, don't get me wrong. I consider it a sacred cow now. But
hate watching shows there.
Oh,
hate it. Because they cram everybody in there. You can't hang. Like, there's no room.
But it's so good.
The shows are always so good, but it's always, like, so packed. And I'm a big dude, so it's always like,
Yeah.
After an hour of, like, sitting halfway crooked, you're like, all right, let's get out of here.
They look at you and like, sit them in the most uncomfortable spot.
Dude,
make them uncomfortable.
The fucking booths that line the side, how many times I've gotten stuck in there and you're crammed next to 3 other people and you have to, like, turn your head to watch the show the whole time?
Oh, yeah, that's not good.
Anyway, so your friend says, have you heard of this thing?
Yeah, so I was like, oh, what's that? And so we go and...
What's that?
What's that? What is that? What is that? So we go and I was just wow. It was magnetic. It was electric. The vibe and just people I've never heard of just
just crushing.
And I was like, what is this? How come the world should see this? You know, I was like preaching the gospel. I'm like, what is wrong with people? Like everyone's got to see. But the one person that just like seriously sealed the deal for me was Big J Okerson.
Love
and I
Big
was
J.
like, dude, I've never seen this guy ever. And he just sat and just like.
He always sits, yeah.
He always sits and he just so... He was dirty but eloquent at the same time. Like, oh, he's just talking, but he's so funny and like great with talking. And I was like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
You know, and then that planted the seed. I'm like, after leaving that, I'm like, I think I want to do this. And it didn't take like, it took like a few months as
it does. Yeah.
But like, it was like, yeah, that plan, that seed was planted, like, you know, germinated or whatever. And it's funny because, a couple years later, I ended up getting sat like in the first few rows of Big J Okerson's special at Webster Hall.
Okay.
And I'm like, he does crowd work with me. I had like super long hair and like a long goatee in that. And I remember my Facebook boy, I was like, dude, or all the comic friends were like, oh, I saw you, Big J Okerson. Are you there? It's like, oh, yeah, that was me.
That's
like,
awesome.
I was like famous for 5 minutes
There
in
you
the
go.
comedy circle. But yeah, that's kind of how it happened. So
And then you just started doing open mics and
yeah, first mic was at the Creek in the Cave.
okay.
R.I.P.
Well, it's in Austin now.
Well,
Didn't die, just moved.
how do you? Well, I guess R.I.P. But
Adios, motherfucker.
yeah, it just moved. But yeah. So I would go once a week, and I'm like, oh, that's a lot already. You know, because you're an idiot. You don't know how these things work. So
What year was this when you started doing this?
back I want to say like 2015.
So about 3 years after you got here.
Yeah.
Okay, so you had been here for a little while.
Yeah.
And then you started going once a week, and you're like, man, that's a lot of stage
It's a
time.
lot of stage time. Whew, it took a lot of, excuse me. And so, then I stopped going.
Okay.
So I went like for a month, 2 months, once a week. And then I'm like, I don't know about this. You know, it's not working. And then like,
I'm not super famous yet.
yeah. No, not at all. It's just put to silence, and I'm like, I don't know how this works. I thought you could just
because
talk.
you're going up and bombing, and you're like, I don't know what.
Oh my god, you get the obligatory, you know, the first.
Yeah.
Oh, this is my first time, and then you're like, yeah, and then
Then you just keep saying this is my first time over and over and over.
no,
I think I talked to Cody about that, and he was like, yeah, we have some people who come to Hell Yeah, and they've been here for 4 months, and they're still like, this is like my second time doing comedy, and we're like, no, it's not.
It's a scary blanket, you know. Sometimes you just got to rip that bandage off and just got to go.
Yeah.
So yeah, I took the summer off, and then at work, we hired this guy because my manager's like, oh, this guy does comedy. You guys talk, whatever. And then shout out to Brock Savage.
Shout out Brock Savage.
Yeah, but he's like, what are you doing? You're going once. You got to go like more than that. Like wait,
Not even a set thing, just more.
yeah, you know, he's just like, you gotta. What are you doing going once? I'm like, oh, what isn't that enough? He's like, you gotta go like a lot, like 10,
Like a lot.
10, 20 times a week. Like what? And then he was just like showing me the ropes,
Yeah.
and kinda
Especially when you're brand new, because you have no fucking idea what's happening.
yeah, dude. Oh, so he kind of just like took me under his wing and just like, this is how it is, you know, whatever, like learning the circuit and just doing the mics and getting the quantity is more important at that stage than quality.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And then once you get a little older, it's quality over quantity.
oh yeah.
Because there are mics now, and I talked about this with a few people, but there are mics now that I go to, and afterwards I'm like, I could have just stayed home. Like,
Yes.
like and not to toot my own horn, because there's a lot of people who don't think I'm funny, which is fine, but well, I'm pretty dark. But it's one of those things where it's like, I already have like sets that I trust.
Mm-hmm.
And again, comedy's subjective. You might not think they're funny, but I trust them.
Yeah.
That they're gonna work. So like, it's not an opinion of like, oh my God, like I have to work out like a 20-minute in case someone wants me to feed. Like I have that.
Yeah.
So now I use the mics. Like if I think of something, I'm like, oh, I got to say this out loud on a stage to see if it's funny. Because even then, it's like one of those things where it's like, obviously I've been doing it on and off for so long where it's like, I need to go at least 4 or 5 times a week, but I don't need to go like to 6 shows a day. Like that's not.
Yeah, no.
Because eventually it's like, what am I, like you said, it's when you start, it's quantity over quality because you have to get the reps.
Yeah.
But once you've been doing it long enough, it's more like I want to go to the mics that I know people are going to be at, that I know people pay attention, where I can get the quality of the rep versus like just going.
Yeah.
So at that stage, how many are you doing? Like 6 a week, 10 a week?
I was doing like
20?
10. I would do like 10 to 20 a week. And it was just like, it's a blur now.
Yeah.
I mean, it all was like shit. But now.
Do you have anything from those early days that you still use or that you trust, like that you could use?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because I don't have anything. I've gone through old books and I'm like I have a couple jokes from rehab, but that was even after.
Yeah.
I mean, I went to rehab in 2013, so that was almost 5 years after I started. I've gone through old joke books from when I first started, and it's all like I can't use any of it. Like it's all garbage. Do you have anything that you're like?
I remember the first time I got a compliment by a comic that I liked, and he's like, "That's actually good," and I'm like, "Oh my god,
that's actually good."
Well, he didn't say that's actually good. He's like, "Oh, that's a good one." I'm
Okay.
like, oh fuck. I'm like, oh yeah. So I kept that one. It's it's like a bit about like.
No, you don't have to burn it. I just wanted to know.
Oh no, yeah. So I was just like,
because I do that sometimes too. Is I'll be at a show and a comic will say something and I won't like because I'm a loud laugher. But sometimes I won't laugh. I'll just be like, that's good.
Yeah,
that's fucking good. You got him. And you're like, put that in the quiver, man.
But that one works still kind of. I should brush up on it, but like that was the first time I was like, oh man, I should stick with this.
Yeah. So then did you stick with it? Did you just keep churning out mics and stuff? Because obviously we Tarantino'd this. We know the end of the story is you meet up, the pandemic happens, you meet the Hell Yeah guys, and you guys all start producing shows and stuff.
Yeah.
So what, in between that time and when you first started, are you just doing mics all the time and like just trying to make it?
Yeah. Well, I had no idea like what making it is, but I just I like do it. I like doing it.
Yeah,
and I still do. That's why I don't know. I don't go as many mics, but I still like going.
Well, we're old men now.
Yeah,
that's for the kids. That's for the young kids.
Well, like how you're saying, like I should be at home or something. Like I think about like, oh, I could be baking or could be making
sometimes
stuff.
You go to a mic and you do stuff that you know would work in certain rooms and then it bombs.
Yeah.
Because I'm still new enough to the scene to where I'll go to mics and this is a real thing. It's very clicky. Like people will be like, this is our mic. We come every week. Who the fuck is this new guy?
Yeah.
And then no one will laugh. And it's like, obviously I know people listening are like, well, if it's funny enough, people will laugh. Well, I'm not that funny. I need people to be on my side. So sometimes I'll do those mics and I'm like, fuck all of this.
But I don't know if it's a defense mechanism, but when I bomb, I laugh. If no one's laughing, I laugh. See, I was like, I laugh because it's like hilarious to me the fact that like you try and
I laugh at other people when they're bombing. Like if you're bombing so bad, like it'll be funny. And that's just something I picked up in Jacksonville because Buck and Crespo and all those guys would sit in the back of the room, and if you were bombing like real hard, they would laugh. But it would be like 4 or 5 seconds after you did your punchline. Yeah. They would laugh, not at you, not at the joke. They're laughing at the silence of the room.
The silence
is
funny,
because you thought you were going to crush.
Silence is funny, so I was like, I laugh at that. It's like running, you watch those dog videos where it runs into a glass door. Yeah. Like that's what it feels like to me when
that's a great analogy.
It's like when I try, I'm like, oh, this not so much like be humbled by the silence. It's more like it's just funny the fact that your brain is like so geared to expecting a laugh, and then it just kind of meets silence. That cracks me up. So it's not like I'm intentionally bombing, but it is funny to me when I do bomb.
When you do bomb,
I laugh. I just like, fuck it, whatever, move on.
Fuck these people.
No hate. I get it. It's one of those things. It's like, all right, it's not for you. I get it. It's not for you. It's not good enough for you right now, but give it time.
It'll get there.
It'll get time, baby. It just needs a little more cooking.
Let's So you did send me that list, which I do appreciate. This is all Chicago stuff. So
Yeah,
this is all
that
before.
that
When
was
you
my-
moved to New York, were you still drinking and everything?
kind of, but it was tapering off.
Okay.
To be honest, like
Because you're not really a big drinker now, are
oh
you?
no, not at all.
Yeah.
And I think there's a few things associated with the drinking that I feel like that's why it stopped. Is one is just, like, I had a bigger group of friends back in Chicago. It's like, dude, we would just be like cheers.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't even, you know how you like in your kids, like this is when, before, I don't know if kids play on playgrounds anymore, but
Yeah, I don't know.
it would just
No,
be
they
assumed.
do. I've got nieces.
Yeah,
They do.
okay,
Their
so-
mom's really active though, but
Yeah, like in grade school, we would always play football after school.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be like coordinated. It was like you would just show up at the field. Everyone just knew to show up at the field. And then you fast forward, like that was the bar.
everyone just knew.
Yeah, you just show up. We didn't need to tell you, like, oh, you going to this place? Yeah, like, no, we would just be there.
Just be there.
And so,
That's actually a really cool thing.
yeah, no, it's very,
It's the same thing. Like I referenced it earlier, but coming from a smaller scene, it's the same sort of thing where it's like Monday at this time, everyone goes to I don't know if it's like this anymore because I talked to some of the people in Jacksonville where I'm from, and they're like, yeah, it's actually not like it used to be. But it was this fun thing where it's like, oh, this is what I do on Monday nights. Like I
Yeah.
know where I'm going to be. Everyone shows up. There's no coordinating. There's no texting. Everyone's just there.
yeah.
So it's the same kind of thing with you and your friends.
Oh, yeah. And so, yeah, that like once I came here, I'm like, I would go by myself, and I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, this is dark.
That's kind of a problem.
This could lead to a bad path.
Yeah, I know a really nice place. We meet every day at noon. There's very nice there.
But-
So when you say you would go by yourself, would you go and just get hammered, or would you just go and like hang out and have a couple beers?
Yeah, I would hang out and have one.
Okay.
Yeah, I would get lit back when I would be around friends.
Yeah.
So I'm like, maybe my friends are the problem. And yeah, so I was like, I gotta stop doing this. Is dumb. And I think that's I just stopped drinking because my friend was like, yeah, I don't drink. And we're like, oh, I want to try that.
Yeah.
And I was smoking too. It helped
Cigarettes
me,
or
yeah,
weed?
Cigarettes.
Okay.
It helped me quit cigarettes.
Okay.
Because that was like one and the same, right?
Yeah.
It's like peanut butter and jelly to me.
Hell yeah, it
You
is.
it's
I actually
good.
didn't pick up smoking until I went to rehab.
Ooh. Well,
So I
mean,
quit
trade.
drinking for a while, but then picked up smoke. I just switched them out.
What's the better trade? I'd rather.
It's smoking.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll give you a couple of reasons. I have a whole bit about it, but it's smoking. One, because smoking. No, God, there's a comic who has a really funny bit about this. I think it's Aaron Eads. I'm not positive though, but it's the whole bit. I won't do the bit because I don't want to butcher it. But it's no one ever had a couple of cigarettes and then hit their wife. Like, you know what I mean? Like
that's true.
my decisions were a lot less toxic smoking than they were drinking.
Oh,
so
yeah.
that's a good trade.
more
I'll take that. Yeah, I'll take that every day.
self-inflicted,
Self-sabotage.
Yeah.
Cigarettes have afforded me the opportunity to meet a lot of really cool people in comedy. Chappelle, Attell, Tom Rhodes, all those people I met when I was
Yeah.
outside smoking. And also, I don't give a shit what anybody says. I look cool as fuck in
Yeah.
a leather jacket smoking a cigarette.
Yeah. That's kind of that's a good look.
Yeah. So I just to answer your question, I take smoking over drinking.
Yeah, that's true. It's more people think drinking is socializing, but like there was a Friends episode where Jennifer Aniston.
Oh
Rachel-
yeah, the whole thing
Yeah, she
with the
was
smoking
like,
outside.
Yes.
Yeah, at
I
work.
was like, that's such a good. People hate on Friends, but you know what?
oh,
There's
I
some-
hate Friends, but yeah.
but there's some like really good
Poignant
social
moments.
Yeah, poignant moments about social groups.
yeah, social interaction.
Yeah. So I mean,
And I actually saw this interesting thing because Friends is so in its own bubble.
yeah.
You could watch Friends today, and other than obviously some glaring technological things, it could be the same storylines.
Yeah.
because it's about the group itself. They don't talk
Yeah.
about any outside issues, nothing like that. So it's interesting.
It's
you
an
brought Friends up.
evergreen show.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, yeah.
Evergreen show.
That's industry speak, you know.
Is that really?
I don't know.
You're the one who was writing screenplays.
I learned evergreen in like sketch writing class, I think.
Yeah, fucking. Of course you did. So you slowed down drinking when you moved to New York, and then
Yeah.
eventually, because you don't, like we talked about, you don't drink really at all anymore.
Yeah.
I don't want to say you're sober because I don't want to put words in your mouth.
No,
but you
no,
don't-
I'm not sober.
Yeah,
for
you
sure.
just
Like,
don't.
It's just you pick and choose your moments.
Yeah, so you quit. You basically stopped drinking. You stopped smoking cigarettes, and now,
Then I did comedy.
yeah, and now you're doing comedy. But let's get to some of these. So we're going to start chronologically. To what I think is chronologically. So senior year in high school. It's the first story you sent me.
Oh, yeah.
This is less of a drinking and more
It is
of
kind of, there's a drinking element to it.
Okay, then perfect.
So, back in high school, junior year, we would go to this place in the forest called the Fields.
Okay.
And that's where all like the burnout cool kids would just get a 6-pack of beer and just drink. So, yeah. Where those like all the underage drinking would be in these
Happen
woods.
at the Fields.
Yeah, in the fields. And so, we would drink, and then after we would finish these beers, we would go to this place called Super Dog. It's like awesome hot dog place, and that would be our night, and that would be like our weekend.
Yeah,
all the time.
Friday after school, Saturday, and then Sunday. Yeah,
it was a great time. But so junior year comes to an end. And I don't know if you've ever seen Dazed and Confused.
Yes, I've.
Oh,
it's a huge movie, guy.
It's so fucking good. So this is how when you get influenced too much by a movie, it's like that movie they haze freshmen, and I'm like by paddling them, I'm like, oh, we should do something to haze the freshmen when we're seniors because it's coming around the corner. So I mean, you can't paddle kids. We
totally just dated ourselves.
Yeah.
Talking about Dazed and Confused.
Yeah, well, it
still holds up, though. I just watched it a couple months ago. It still holds up.
It's just like a nice piece of what happened in the 70s,
It's a, what do they call it? It's a time capsule. It's a period piece.
Yeah.
Of the 70s.
Great movie. So the seniors haze the freshmen by paddling them, which you can't do anymore because, that's assault, I guess. And so we were like,
some would say assault with a deadly weapon.
Yeah.
That's a big-ass paddle they use in the movie.
Oh, some of them. I like the ingenuity that went behind some, like some with holes to get more
airflow.
But so then we're like, me and the people, like my friends were like, oh, how are we going to haze these freshmen? Because like, the stupid thing with like throw pennies, like those were like things that seniors did.
My high school, they just beat the shit out of us.
Oh, shit. That's terrifying.
Yeah, well, it's pretty shitty.
I mean, I guess. What do they do now? They just shoot the school up.
Yeah.
Hey.
That's Jimmy.
Oh, no, I don't want to be associated with that slave. I was just So we were thinking.
Come on, low hanging fruit, man. You're gonna swing high.
So we were like, oh, what should we do? And I don't know who came up with the idea.
They just shoot the skull. I should make that the title.
Oh my god! So. The idea came about, it's like, all right, so let's invite freshmen to the Fields and pretend like we're throwing a kegger and invite them because freshmen are so eager to be a part of anything. And so that's they want friends. Yes. And so when they would come, the plan was to egg them.
Okay.
So
I'm following. I'm with you.
So we got it all set. The plan is in place. We have like not a mole, but like a guy that would be into freshmen, like girls.
Yeah.
That guy?
Yeah.
So he was like the mole. Yeah. So he infiltrated. He's like, hey guys, you guys should come to this, the Fields.
Just going to throw it out here, though. If you set all the freshmen up to get egged, none of those freshman girls are going to want to date you, even if you're a senior.
Yeah, you don't think that when you're diabolically trying to.
Yeah, when you're masterminding a plan.
Yeah, that never comes into play. So I forgot what night. It's like it's all into place. We have the keg, the fake keg. We have the eggs.
Wow,
we have like stations. Yeah, we had stations. So we have station at the field, and then we're like a branch of like a group of people. I think we had walkie-talkies too. Yeah. And so
I've seen Hook.
Yeah, so they would come, and then the people on the walkie-talkies would be like, "They're coming in, and then so we have like a first group of fucking freshmen come, and then they like get lured in, and then like boom, 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 we got them good. Yeah, we got them good, and it was like yeah, and then they all scram away, and we're like yeah, this is great, and then they get them too on the way out, and it was amazing. It was fun. We're like all on top of the world after that, right? So that happens another time. It's like setting up easy, and they come in, we get them, they run away, same thing, right?
Yeah.
And we're just like, oh, and then the
got
first,
a whole triangle of death.
Yeah, exactly. So the first group are like, all right, I think that's it. We're gonna go. Like we've had enough fun. So our eyes coming into the fields like leaves, and we're like, all right, whatever, let's just hang around just in case,
Yeah.
And so and then we're like setting up, like about to leave kind of, and then we see like a big group, and we're like, oh, this is it, we're gonna get some more. And then as they come closer and closer, the group is very big, and then as they get closer, we see, oh, they actually have weapons.
Oh my God.
So I'm like, oh my God. And then they come, and like it's too late to move, to run away, but there's like 3 people in our group. We had like 8 people left in our circle, but 3 people mysteriously vanish into the forest, and it's just me and 4 other people
against this giant group of freshmen.
This giant group. There's golf clubs. I see like a broken umbrella. It's like bats, and like it wasn't all of them were carrying, but like, there was a few, and we're like terrified now because there's like.
Yeah, they might be little, but now they've got numbers.
20 against 5. I don't care who you are. Like we do have one big dude. He's like 6'2" on our side, but I mean
they can't take all 20.
Exactly. So they confront us like, who the fuck's been egging us? Blah blah blah. And we're like, we played stupid. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. We're here for the party.
You fucking diabolical mastermind. Tail between your legs,
dude. Totally tail between our legs. And so we're like, hide the fucking shit, hide the evidence, So we're like, we scramble, we hide it, right? We hide it good. We're just like having beers, drinking, right?
So what's happening? Are the kids? Did they leave? Or
No, they're just all. It's tense.
They're just awkwardly standing.
Yeah, they're awkwardly standing. They're just tense, like, and we're like defending ourselves, like, I don't know what you're talking about. We just got here, blah blah blah. And I'm like, we're good at this point. We don't have any evidence on us, whatever. And then like the head guy, he's like, all right, fuckers. It almost seems like, all right, I think we got this. I think we're going to get out of here safe. And then one of the little bastard kids like snoops around, and he finds like a thing of eggs.
Oh, no.
And we're like, oh, fuck. He's like, explain this. And we're like, oh, fuck. And then like the walkie-talkies are like, we need backup. And
so
like,
what
no
happens?
Listening. It's like tense now. It's like coming to a boiling point. Something's going to happen, right? And then all of a sudden, they just beat up on my friend Ryan, the big guy, and they're like fucking going at him. And then all hell breaks.
And all of you guys were just standing there watching?
No, and then we get jumped.
Oh, okay.
So it was like a domino effect. Take out the big guy, and then we're like, ah. So then they take us out, and like, dude, we get beat the fuck out, man.
Really?
They're getting us good.
The freshmen.
Well, there's 20 of them with the weapons and beating us good. And then someone like screams out, "There's a cops coming, cops!" And then they all fucking scramble, and then we're all like beaten up so bad. Like, dude, I have never gotten. I felt like,
God,
dude,
that is so embarrassing.
Dude, yeah. Ugh.
You guys spent all this time on this plan to haze the freshmen, and then they just kicked the shit out of you.
Dude, it totally blew up in our face. And so it almost got really serious, though. My best friend, to this day, he was there. And I think that's why our bond is so strong, because we didn't run away. Like,
yeah.
I still...
You took your beating like a man.
I still carry a grudge again. I know the couple people that left, and I still think they're cowards. But whatever. They're very smart cowards, but cowards nonetheless. But my best friend, he came like a mere like centimeters away from getting like permanently blinded.
Oh my God.
His eye, like, okay, so we like gather ourselves up finally, and we go to Superdog to get hot dogs, and like
got to after that,
doing an inventory on our damage, and like we look at my George's eye, and it's like red, and like I guess he went to see a doctor afterwards. I'm like, yeah, you almost got blinded.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and we were just like all beaten battered.
So how does the rest of the year play out? You guys do you avoid the freshmen? Are you guys scared of the freshmen?
Well, we find out that it wasn't even our school's freshman. So this is like another high school freshman that came on.
God damn.
But this story has a somewhat interesting, pleasant ending, I guess. So yeah, throughout the years, like whatever, we made peace against the freshmen, and it was because it was mainly this other dude that incited everything. And he went to another high school. So fast forward, like
the Rufio to the Lost Boys.
Exactly. That little fucker. I think he was Filipino too, just like Rufio.
Son of a bitch.
But fast forward like 5 years, I'm like in court to testify against some speeding ticket. I'm in court, and then like I'm waiting my turn, and then like the court case before me is this dude who was the fucking Rufio guy.
Are you serious?
Yes.
What was he in there for?
I look at him, his face is like fucking all bruised up.
Yeah, it was.
And because the court case he was in, he's got in a major fight with this one dude. He picked
Peter Pan. I've seen the movie.
He picked the wrong dude. I guess it was like a car accident or something like that, and they got into a fight, and the guy fucking destroyed Rufio.
Yeah, he did.
And I was like, come full circle, baby.
Yeah. You can fly, you can fight, and you can crow, man.
I mean, yeah, we didn't deserve a beating, but you shouldn't haze kids.
Depends on who you ask.
Yeah. Fair enough.
I think the kids running home with egg all over their face might be like, someone should beat the shit out of those guys.
We had shaving cream too.
Yeah.
We got to put that on top.
See, and that's like a fun haze thing because no one, I mean, other than you guys getting the shit kicked out of you, but at the time, but you know what I mean? Like, no one's, like, you're not hurting it. Like, because at my high school, I remember I was a junior and the football team was mainly seniors. It was the year, like, we did really well, went to the playoffs and stuff. And their fun thing was like, oh, well, we'll jump the underclassmen.
Oh, yeah.
So I remember my dad used to always say, like, you can't let them punk you. Like, you have to fight back. Because I was always so scared to fight back.
Yeah.
And I remember one time one of the dudes checked me into a locker. And this is like in the junior varsity locker room. Like, you have to walk through there to get to the varsity locker room. And he like checked me into a locker. So I like slammed him up against another locker. No one else is in there. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to stand up for myself. And I remember it was a defensive lineman, and another defensive lineman walked through and saw me and like hit me in the back of the head and was like, get the fuck off him. And then the entire starting defense just came in and kicked the shit out of me. And I remember being like, I've heard of like getting jumped into gangs and stuff, but like this is not fun. Like I remember I left the locker room and like went into the portables and like cried, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, why am I even on this team? But it was one of those things where I was like, okay, but at least now I stood up for myself and like they'll respect me. Not at all. Like just kept bullying the shit out of it. Like, and they had always bullied me, but like it was weird. Junior year going into senior year, it got so much worse because the seniors, I don't know if it was one of those things like they knew their high school career was at an end and most of them wouldn't go anywhere. And a lot of them still live in the same goddamn place they did when we were in high school.
Yeah.
So they were like, oh, this is our time.
Taking your frustration.
Yeah, but it was one of those things where I was just like, what the fuck? So in your case, you guys were just being fun, like eggs and shaving cream.
Yeah.
And then Rufio was like, the fuck you are.
Yeah. Well, Rufio got his.
Oh yeah, he did.
He got a good beat down. He got a good half face full of bruises. So I was like, justice is served in more than in more.
Only took 5 years, but we got him.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about speaking of driving and stuff like that. You mentioned the car accident earlier. That's what Rufio was there for. But you talked about drinking and driving kind of excessively.
Oh yeah,
in Chicago.
Yeah.
Now you wrote in the story, you put never got a DUI, but something else did happen.
Yeah.
Right before you moved to New York. What happened?
Okay, I just want to go on record saying I look back on it very shamefully.
Yeah.
But I was very good, and I never got caught. But I would never. That's one of the stupidest things I've ever done in my life. Yeah. Hands down. Hopefully, it'll be the stupidest thing.
There's so many times where I think back onto like the times I would just wake up and my car would be like sideways in the driveway and I wouldn't remember how I got home. And at the time, I was like, oh, dodged another bullet. And now I look back on that like, so you fucking idiot.
We're lucky, man, to be honest. Because
I see it all the time at AA and stuff. People have killed people. People end up in prison. Like it's like not something to fuck around with.
No, I don't ever do it, kids. No, but in Chicago, so many people drink and drive. It's pretty. It's
very prevalent.
I compare it to like in New York, is jaywalking. Jaywalking is so prevalent. Everyone jaywalks. Like, well, in Chicago, everyone drinks and drives. It's the same. It's like you are not a Chicago until you get behind the wheel after a few. No, it's like so. I had problem. Like I thought that movie, Dude, Where's My Car? It was like kind of a hack title.
Yeah.
Until I blacked out drunk and I couldn't find my own car.
So what happened?
No, this is just like on a regular.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, but so
I thought this was because you walked out of the bar and you're like, dude, where's my car?
That too. So, okay. So I'm all set to move to New York. This is like 2012 September. And I don't know what I'm going to do with my car because it's a junker. It's a piece of shit. I'm like, no one's going to want to buy this.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck, I don't know what to do. My dad, I don't want to show him the car because he always said, like, I don't ever want to see your car like this again. Like, it's like trash piles.
Yeah.
You know, typical.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah.
And there's like CDs. I had a CD changer in the back seat. It was horrible.
Whenever I would get a new for me car, because they were never new. They were always like 5 or 10 years old.
Yeah.
But I would always be like, I'm going to take such good care of it. And I would for a couple of months. And then all of a sudden it's filled with like fast food wrappers and trash and clothes and...
But you're not. But the thing is, I'm not a litter bug.
Yeah,
so
me neither.
This is my trash.
Yeah.
So you respect the fact that I'm not throwing it out the window.
Exactly.
But anyway, so 2 months out before I moved to New York, I'm like thinking, like, how am I gonna get rid of this car? Like, this might be a problem. And so I was like, maybe I should just drive it to New York and then just see if I can get rid of it. So I'm like, one night, I'm like, just, typical Jimmy night, I'm drinking and driving. Jesus, it sounds horrible. But then my buddy's like at a bar near my apartment, and he's like, "Oh, I'm here." And I'm like, "All right, cool. I'll meet you there." So I like park right outside the bar, get in, look for him. He's not there, and I'm like in there for like less than 10 minutes, right?
Like looking around.
Yeah, looking around, go to the front to the back, and then I get a text. He's like, "Oh, I'm not here. I went home, whatever." So I'm like, "Fuck this."
Dick.
Yeah, right. And then I go back to my car, and it is not there anymore. Someone fucking stole my car, my junk piece of shit car, where the check engine light is like flashing.
Just stay on, yeah.
Everything that's wrong with the car is wrong. The bumpers gone. Like, why?
So you're drunk at the time.
Oh yeah.
Do you call the cops? To be like, hey, I drove here and now my car's gone?
Well, yeah, I had to sober up real fast.
Yeah. I was
So
gonna say, that's
weird. Yeah,
that's a weird conversation.
Yeah, so I had to like report the car missing, and I had to like sober. Like, well, just I lived close by to the bar, so I just started walking home as I'm making this call.
Yeah.
And then like I'm like joking a little bit with the guy on the phone, but yeah, I'm like, I'd like to report a car missing, blah blah blah, and then like it got stolen. And I'm like kind of relieved, to be honest, because now I'm like, I don't have to do shit about getting rid of this car.
I felt the same way coming to New York because I had a car. It was the first time where I was able to actually buy a car. Because my credit has been horrific most of my life. Because like I said, I'm terrible with money. So my credit, like bad, like 385 bad. Yeah, like.
Shit.
It was bad. I've obviously rebuilt it since then. When I got sober, the first time I started rebuilding it. So it's been a process. But I remember I got a car from my dad's friend from work. And it was in 2006 when the car was first manufactured. It was top of the line everything. But now fast forward, this is like 2014 when I get this car, or 2015. I remember because it was almost 10 years old. But he sold it to me. My ex-fiance's mom helped us out so we could just pay for it all up front. But then the radiator cracked years later, and I was like, fuck, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, I don't have the credit to get a new car. Literally, Carvana, shouts out to Carvana, was a godsend because you didn't have to go talk to like financiers and stuff. They just basically said, this is how much you're approved for with your credit, which was obviously a lot better than it was before. Yeah. So they're like, but it still wasn't perfect. So I was still paying like 20% interest on a car, which is fucking stupid.
Oh, man.
But this was like a year and a half before we moved to New York because I didn't know if we were going to move or not because the pandemic and everything that's happening. So I bought this car. And then when we finally decided to make the move, I'm like upside down on the car. So same thing you're talking about. I'm like,
shit.
How the fuck am I going to get rid of this?
Yeah.
Like I was panicked. I was like, I have gap insurance. Maybe if I just take it into the side of the guardrail, like on the interstate, like maybe then I can just get a check for the car. And then luckily everything worked out to where I refinanced it, got my interest rate dropped, and then ended up selling the car for not that much less than I owed. Oh. So it all ended up working out. But that fear of like, I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do with this. Because it's too big to you can't just throw it away.
No, yeah, you can't just leave it like.
And like I've had to junk cars in the past, and it's one of those things where it's a process, and then they give you like $150, and you're like, this isn't even enough to re-register the title. Like I don't. So you ended up getting it stolen. Now, did you have insurance on the car and everything?
I did, but only liability.
Oh, so they didn't cover any
the
of it?
cheapest form of insurance. Yeah. So it's, I guess you can donate it for charity, but I don't think they don't even probably take that junker.
No, yeah, and that's one of the things too. Is I remember when the radiator cracked on that really nice Nissan, I ended up like no one would buy it because I couldn't drive it because it would overheat like instantly because the radiator was broken. And I remember I tried sealing. I tried so many different things. So then I eventually junked it, and the guy came to pick it up from because this was the only junkyard that would actually pick up the car. So he came, and then he saw it, and it was really nice.
Yeah.
And he goes, "This is what you're junking?" And I was like, "Yeah, the radiator cracked. I can't drive it anymore." And he goes, "You're not just going to get it fixed?" And I was like, "Well, I can junk it, and you give me $300, or I can pay $1,200 to get it fixed." Like, no, I'm going to junk it.
Yeah.
And I just remember he was like, "You sure?" Because it was like a nicer car, like it looked nice. So he was just like, I'm going to take it. But like, because he thought I was like an idiot.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Fool's gold.
Yeah. He was like, wait, really? Yeah. Last story we want to get to. You used to bartend at a dive bar in Chicago called Lily's.
Yes.
So.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Let's talk about, because we've only got a few more minutes. So let's fast forward. There's a lot of adventurers at Lily's, but let's fast forward to the guitarist from Stained.
Yeah. All right. So
the owner was never there.
Owner was never there. Basically, me and my friends would all work there, and like someone would work the door, and it was like no one would come in. It was a shit show, but we would all drink the liquor.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny how, I don't know how we got away with it for so long. Anyway, so bartending at this place, no one would come, and we would have the keys. It was just like our drinking place. It was really,
Yeah, we've all seen It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
My God. Yeah, exactly. That's what it was. Because no one was at Patty's. Like, it was just them. That was it for us. So yeah, one night I'm like working. I'm closing up. No, obviously, like no one was there, and I was just like fucking bored, and I'm closing up shop, and they're like this guy with like stringy hair and like kind of looked homeless outside, and he looked lost. I'm like, God damn it, this poor bastard, you know? So I go outside and I talk to him like, hey man, you want a beer? You want a beer or something? And he's like, yeah, come on. Yeah, that'd be cool. So I'm like, yeah, come on. And so I sit him down.
Oh, you're a sweetheart.
Yeah, I felt bad for the guy. You know, he looked like he needed some company. And I was bored. So I was like, I could use someone to talk to too. So like I give him a beer. He sits down. And he like gets a smirk on us. I'm like, oh, what's going on? He's like, hey, man. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. And I was bored. I'm like, hey, you want to do some blow? I got some in my pocket.
You do?
Yeah, I have some on me. And he like smiles. He's like, yeah, let's do some. So we go downstairs into the basement, and we're just taking like bumps off this bag of Coke I have. And he has this smile again. I'm like, yeah, what's up, dude? As he's taking them, he's like, you know who I am? I'm like, no, dude. I'm the guitarist from Stained.
Really?
I'm like, what?
You thought it was a homeless guy.
I thought it was a fucking homeless guy, and he turns out to be the guitarist. But, you know, why would you lie about that, right? That's very specific.
So random.
Yeah, it's so random. Like, it's so crazy that you could not believe it. So I was just like, oh, shit, this is pretty cool. But not, because I've never listened. I'm not.
Yeah, you don't know Stained.
Yeah. I do know that one song, but I think
that's what it's called, that one song.
And he's just like smiling. He's like, and he complimented the Coke. He's like, that's good Coke. It's like jet fuel. I'm like, I don't know about that. It's pretty bad. So, and like I joke about like, yeah, you know, I'm just like, I'm the guitarist from Stained. I'm like, yeah, just do the line. Let's just fucking get up.
Let's get the fuck out of here.
And he was just like really nice. He's like, oh, do you want to go see a show?
Not really.
I'm like, yeah, I'm good. You know. I'm good. We don't need to do this. And then like he ends up leaving. Really nice guy. And I end up calling my best friend, who also worked at Lily's too. And I was like, hey, fucking Joey.
You're never going to believe this.
Yeah, you're never going to believe this. I fucking just did Coke with the guitarist from Stained. He's like, oh my God, I did too.
What?
So a year before this happened, he did the same thing.
Okay.
He came to the same wandering spot.
Wow.
Dude, I feel like he had like some type of muscle drug memory. It was
muscle
like,
memory, yeah.
dude, I
know where to go get coke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is the show was like like in the burbs. So I think he took
Like a train down?
He's like, I need to go back, like
God,
a
insane.
salmon returning to like lay its eggs. He returned to do coke, and I worry. Sometimes I think about that night. I'm like, maybe he was off, but he's just like, I need to get a fix, and no one's gonna believe me when I just go to say I'm gonna go to a bar.
Yeah.
And so that was
God, that's insane.
It's crazy, man.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Plug everything one more time.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram at Pizza Jim. You can also come see me and the boys do comedy at a Hell Yeah Comedy Show. It's at Citizens of Soho. Our next show is
March 25th.
And you can find us on Instagram at Hell Yeah Comedy. But thanks, Brennan, man. This was a great time.
This was a blast. Thank you, everybody, for listening. At Brennan T Comedy on all social media, BrennanTComedy.com. Check out the website, the Patreon. Lots of shows coming up. Florida, Ohio, next couple of months. And I'll talk to y'all next week.